Heaven is a place that exists. It is a place that is promised for the believers. The existence in paradise is one where everything that you wish for is made manifest and you have access to it. And there's nothing that is withheld from you. There's nothing that is off limits.
Right.
All things go in paradise. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد الإمام المهدي وسلم تسليما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My dear brother Iyad.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Father. It's an honor to be with you.
The honor is mine. God bless you.
God bless you.
So today we want to continue speaking a little bit about the soul. And we're going to mention various aspects of the soul, pieces of information. We'll try also throughout our conversation to respond to some of the questions that were posed to us via the comments that were left on the other video that we had about the mysteries of the soul, and other questions that were raised to us by some of the believers. So, in terms of the soul itself considers the body to be a home for it, or considers the body to be an outfit or a shirt that it wears, something that it abides in for a certain amount of time, and then it gets rid of it. And this parallel, that's drawn between the home of the soul and the body is something that we find mentioned in the sayings of Jesus, alayhi salam, and also something which comes up in the Holy Quran and in the words of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad alayhi salam. For example, there's a verse in the Quran that says they destroy their homes with their hands and with the hands of the believers. Yeah. And this verse from the Holy Quran, when it was interpreted by Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, he said that the home is the home of the spirit, right? It's the body. So the home that's mentioned in this verse is the body. That's what's meant by it, of the soul. And the destruction of the body is done by the hands of the soul itself, or the individual that's that's incarnating in that particular body. They can destroy the home, and the believers also can destroy the home. And how can one destroy his home? Through his actions, because of the karmic law which exists. So, for example, a person whom incarnates in a particular time period or era, and he commits a certain amount of sins or acts, this will affect the body that he incarnates into. Right. And we have an example of this that was given to us by Imam Ahmad al-Hassan salam, and that occurred in our very community. We have a wonderful woman, her name's Ghazala. She's incredible. And she's a mountain of faith, and she's been through so much, this woman, God bless her soul. And she has a son who's also a member of our community. His name is Surush, and Surush was, has grown up with a severe mental and physical handicap. And one day Ghazala was speaking to me and to the Imam, and she, posed this question, and the question was, why is it that Surush has this severe handicap? Is it because of something that I did in a previous life or a sin that I committed that made me deserving of having to go through this harsh trial and tribulation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereby, one of my children is struck in this fashion or manner? She was feeling guilty. She felt like maybe she was the reason why her kids had to suffer, right? Because she has two kids actually that suffer from a handicap, Surush and Farah.
Right.
And Imam Ahmed al-Hassan responded to her and informed her the story, actually, the secret behind Surush, the mystery. And the reason why it is that he has this handicap, and it has nothing to do with her. But rather, the Imam al-Islam said that actually there abides within Surush a soul. And that soul was a prophet from the 124,000 prophets and messengers that were sent to mankind. And that prophet, his name was Roshan. And he lived amongst a particular people, and the people were struck with a famine. And this famine caused the people to not have enough food, really, to feed the community. And they suffered greatly, and they worried, and sometimes they went days on end without eating. They were really starving to death. And they went back to their prophet, Roshan, and they asked him, what should they do? And they were pleading with him, and they were complaining, and they were begging him to pray to God to relieve them from this matter. And they would go back to him because everybody accepted his judgment. They would go back to him in regards to the splitting of the rationing of the food that they had that was available.
Yeah.
So one day, this prophet Roshan made a mistake, and it was a mistake that was too big for a prophet from the prophets to commit such a mistake. While rationing the food, splitting the food dividing it amongst the people, he decided that he would exempt from the rationing, from the dividing of the food, a particular individual who suffered from a severe mental and physical handicap. He thought to himself, maybe these people, it's better off for them to not live. Maybe these people are not in the right state of mind. Maybe it's better that we focus on saving those whom are in their right mind and have their full health. These people might die anyway, so we might as well focus on, taking care of and feeding the stronger and the more fit. And due to this great mistake, that Roshan had committed in discriminating against the person who suffers from such a handicap, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to erase his name from the list of the prophets and the messengers. And he actually caused this prophet to incarnate into many, many, many bodies after that, where he suffered from the same type of mental and physical handicap that the person or persons that he discriminated against had, in order that he may teach him a lesson, so that he may experience what it's like to be in that body, so that he may never do or repeat again the actions which he had committed, and so that he may also understand and not hold it against God, so that the soul, while in those bodies, that suffered from that severe mental and physical handicap, would have nothing else to say except the saying of Jonah alayhi salam when he was in the belly of the whale, when he said, I bear witness that there's no God but you, and verily I have been from the wrongdoers.
Yeah. It's an incredible example, Abba Sadiq, of God's infinite justice that knows no exceptions, actually. And that the law of karma really is, everlasting.
Exactly. And the souls themselves, they are genderless. And the souls themselves do not have a form, as we mentioned in the previous episode, that resembles our human form. It's not like in the cartoons where, the soul is a ghost copy or a transparent copy of the body. In fact, if we were to be able to capture the soul on camera, or to see it with our own eyes, what we would see is a small ball of light. This was a moment where our cameras managed to actually capture this phenomenon. You can see a light that's moving at high speed, and it's crossing over the faces of the individuals that are standing over there. And it was a fascinating photo, and we took it and we asked Imam Ahmed Hassan salam about it. And the Imam salam, he confirmed, this was many years ago, and the Imam confirmed that this was a soul that was captured on camera, and it was on the way to one of the bodies of the believers who was with us and is still with us, but that was living in that particular area at that time. This was a soul, but it was not one of those souls that incarnate on the earth, the Imam says. And that's an interesting thing now. So now we also have souls that incarnate on the earth, and we have souls that don't incarnate on the earth. But rather, this was a soul that acts as a teacher, a helper, an enforcer. Yeah. So there are many of these souls that interact with human beings and even enter into human bodies for a short time period in order to enforce a particular soul that is struggling or needs help, in a particular stage or during a particular time period. They're teacher souls or enforcer souls. Anyway, we have souls also that are affected by the experience. Souls in general are affected by the experiences in which they have. And sometimes they're affected too much by the experience that they have in one particular incarnation. And you also have a lot of Buddhist teachings and Hindu teachings that basically state that a person can never break free from the cycle of incarnations, right? Of reincarnating into this physical realm until they detach themselves completely from the pleasures of this world, right? So that's the only way that you can reach nirvana or reach paradise or that. And that's why you'll find that it is the tradition of many Buddhist monks and Hindu gurus that they abstain from the world and they meditate in nature, or you'll find them wearing rags, or you'll find them fasting from food or abstaining from sex or different things of this nature. It's all to fulfill this idea that they have to abstain from the world in order that they can break free from this cycle of reincarnating on the earth.
I understand.
We have in Al-Haft Sharif an example of how a soul might get attached to something and it might affect it into in a future incarnation. For example, we have one chapter in Al-Haft Sharif where Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam explains to Al-Mufaddal ibn Umar that there's a reason why a homosexual man, for example, would have that inclination to be with men rather than with women. And Al-Mufaddal ibn Umar, was astonished by this notion, and he was wanting to ask, why is it the case? And then Imam Sadiq alayhi salam explained it to him that the homosexual man perhaps was in a previous incarnation a woman. Right. And in the text, it actually says a promiscuous woman, who had many relations with many different men. And so they became addicted to this act of sexual, these sexual acts with men, the woman does. Right. And so when she moves on to her next incarnation, because she loved men so much and loved the act of being with them, that this soul, once it passed on to the next incarnation, it was not able to get rid of this desire that it had to be with men. So even though it's in in a new body, it still feels like it is in the wrong body, and it feels like it was supposed to be a woman. And in fact, you find that there are a lot of homosexual people that state exactly that. They feel like they were born in the wrong body.
Yeah.
And that's why they transition into another sex, right? And I'm not saying that this is the case with all homosexual men. Certainly not. That all of them used to be women that were, promiscuous. But I'm saying that certainly some of them, it is the case. And I asked Imam Ahmed Hassan Salam actually about this particular, notion that is brought up in Al-Haft al-Sharif, and the Imam alayhi salam confirmed that it is true and it is possible that a soul which is genderless, can reincarnate once as a man and then another time as a woman, or as a woman, and then it can incarnate into a man.
Yes.
That's a fascinating
It's incredible
idea.
It makes sense.
Incredible idea.
For the first time we hear why people actually say there's an explanation for why somebody is in the wrong body. That makes sense from a past reincarnation that affects actually the soul, that it wants to be in the new body. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's two things to extract from that example, what you just mentioned, and also the notion that souls do get attached to particular pleasures in this world, and then they seek them out in a next incarnation. And you might have, you might have that be the reason why somebody, for example, has particular addictions, or desires to drink or seek out, or to gamble or things of this nature. Maybe they were very successful at gambling, or they really loved that in the previous incarnation. And so that kind of carries over, as well as other types of passions. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can also be a positive thing, that somebody was a pilot, for example, in a previous incarnation, and they really love that. And then in the next incarnation, you'll find them being born or growing up as a boy, and they're obsessed with planes. And there are many stories actually and examples of that have been shown.
Makes sense.
Like in television shows and in interviews where they've taken cases of particular children that have had memories from previous lifetimes, and you'll find that they're many times they are obsessed with or attached to certain aspects that were part of their previous life.
Yes.
So certainly the verse from the Quran that a person can destroy his own body, by his own hands and the hands of the believers is true. And we've demonstrated that now through several different examples, starting with the example of Roshan. And they destroy it through their own actions or through ill treatment towards their brothers or their fellow man. And it also shows the great justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's another meaning behind the destruction of the home, and that's the destruction of the home of the hereafter. And that is this idea that we have that's so prominent in the narrations of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, that explain that the individual, through his actions and his deeds, is constantly building for himself a palace or a home in paradise, or he, through bad deeds, he's actually burning all of that which he built in the hereafter. And so there are also these homes that exist at the very end of the cycles of reincarnation. And those are the homes that either abide in heaven or in hell. And I asked Imam Ahmed Hassan salam about this notion of whether or not souls have bodies when they enter into paradise. And the Imam said that they do have bodies, and the bodies are appropriate for that realm or that dimension in which heaven exists. So that's an interesting notion too, because now we have this idea that in the hereafter, the soul will enjoy a physical existence. The bodies that are in that realm might not be as thick as, or as solid as the bodies that we have here in this dense dimension, this earthly plane. But there are still vehicles that are physical ones that a person will incarnate into in order that they may enjoy paradise at the very end of the cycles here. And this shouldn't surprise us, because actually we have narrations from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that existed way before Imam Ahmad Hassan salam did, that kind of indicated this. And one of the more famous ones is this hadith where it speaks about how the souls of the martyrs are placed into the bodies of these particular flying birds in paradise. Have you ever heard these narrations? And then and they're given wings and they're flying above in paradise, but the narrations explicitly state that their souls go into these beings. So what is birds? Is it like the physical earthly birds? For sure not. But there exists these other types of vehicles, bodies that are appropriate for the believers. And we do know that it's not meant by that the physical, it's not meant by the birds, the same types of birds that we have here. And there's a reason for that, because animals don't exist in paradise. But before we get to the topic of animals on paradise, I just want to mention something that's quite interesting, because you do have in Judaism and Christianity and Islam a variety of narrations that tie the souls of the deceased with birds specifically, right? Or they tie, the souls of demons or angels with birds. We have in Judaism some texts, all right, some old Hebrew texts and manuscripts, like the Book of Abraham, that are not a part of the old Hebrew Bible, but that describe Abraham's trials and tribulations that he had in his story, his trials and tribulations with his father and his uncle and the polytheist people at the time, and go into detail a little bit about his meetings with God, etc. And there is a scene in there where Iblis, or Satan, Lucifer, Azazel, appears to Abraham in the form of a black bird, right? And we also have Gabriel, or an angel, appearing as well to him as a bird, and him flying on the or levitating, raising up on the wings of a bird, right? So you have angels and you have Azazel, the devil, appearing in the form of birds. Right. You also have narrations from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that state that when a person that you love passes away, that sometimes, many times, that soul will continue to check on its family members, right? To peer on them and see how it is that they are doing. And this is a notion that's not foreign to Christianity and Islam in general. You have many people that have stated and shows that have depicted movies, etc., the soul of a deceased person, kind of lingering around their beloved ones, except that these narrations go into a little bit more detail about the mechanics or of how it is that this experience happens. And one of the ways that this experience can happen, according to the traditions, is that the soul of the deceased person can peer into this physical realm through the eyes of a bird, right? And the narration stated that, if you find after the passing of a beloved one, a bird that is kind of peering through the window, or that flies into the home and is looking at you, or is tapping on the window, that this is the soul of somebody who you loved, who deceased, who passed away, and is checking on you. Except that it's not that the soul itself is incarnating as a bird, okay, because that would be a punishment.
Yes.
And it's very clear to distinguish between the idea that the soul who's being punished can incarnate into a bird, and now it's trapped in this body, versus or any other animal, versus a soul of somebody who is a good person using a living entity as a binocular or as a window into this world. So it's kind of like the souls are given permission to tap into the consciousness of particular animals that are in this world. And in these set of narrations, we're talking specifically about birds, in order that they may get a physical glimpse of their beloved ones without the soul itself being stuck within the body of the bird. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. SubhanAllah.
Yeah. So back to the notion of the animals in paradise. Animals do not exist in paradise, and I think that that's an important question for a lot of those people that love their dogs, their cats, their animals. They had pets that passed away, and they wonder, will I ever see these pets again? And they kind of hope that maybe when they get to go to heaven that they'll be there and their dog is playing with them. That's impossible. It will never happen. That animals enter into paradise in their current form, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just, and there are animals that are extraordinary beings, and animals that deserve to enter into paradise more so than human beings. So God rewards and allows these animals for their extraordinary acts, right, that they did, or services that they did for mankind, to be rewarded, and he allows them to enter into paradise, but he doesn't allow them to enter into paradise in the form of cats or dogs, because there is a form that is more appropriate for them. And so they would enter into paradise or into the heavens in the same form that the people of the heavens enter into, the same form that any other human being would enter into it, because God would then allow these animals to incarnate first as human beings on earth, in order that they may have the same chance and opportunity that any other human being is offered to elevate spiritually.
Right. Again, God's incredible justice and mercy.
God is incredible, and his justice and mercy is great. So now we know that good animals, are rewarded. They reincarnate as human beings, and it's the opposite of what we find happening in Masr. Yes. Right. So in the example of Masr, you have people that their behavior, resembles that of the animals. All right. Their behavior does not require them to have a human body. Right. Having an animal body is sufficient for them. If there are people, and we spoke about this in the last episode, that all they care about is just eating, and they don't have any other purpose in life, well, you don't need a human body for that. You can have a pig body, and you can still enjoy, the chemical reactions and pleasures that are given to your brain as a result of stuffing your mouth and constantly having that feeling of eating, you can achieve that by having, a body of a pig, for example, rather than the body of a human being. So here's a soul that does not take advantage of the body that he has as a human. So he loses it and he comes back as a pig. And the opposite is also true. You have animals that take full advantage of their bodies that they have their vehicles that they're given, whether it's a body of a dog or a bear or a rat or an ant or whatever it is, and they do something that is more than what they have ambitions, and they have deeds that exceeds the body that they're given. So God says, okay, let me give them a chance to take full advantage of a higher vehicle and see what it is that they do with that. And we have examples of animals that have actually achieved that, and animals that have returned today, even in the time of the Qa'im, to be supporters of his, and they're all in human form today. For example, the whale of Jonah. This was a whale that taught a prophet a great lesson, right? And that obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Jonah the prophet disobeyed, the whale obeyed, wow. Right? So how is it that now God can be just and he returns Jonah out of the belly of the whale and doesn't give the whale itself an opportunity to become a human when he was the one that was obeying God while the prophet wasn't, right? Yeah. So the whale of Jonah is an example. The elephant of Abraha, whose name was Mahmud, is also in present in this day and age in the form of a human. And this elephant was an elephant that the tyrant was riding, and he was leading it towards the destruction of the Kaaba, and he refused to move forward and to destroy the Kaaba. He feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He feared his angels. He obeyed God when God told him not to go forward. He preserved the sanctity of the Holy Kaaba, and as a result of that, he was deserving to be a human being, and unlike the ones that were sitting on top of him and trying to drive him towards fighting against God and his messenger. Another example is the ant of Solomon. The ant of Solomon is a beautiful little creature, that was more humble and more wise than the messenger of God in that particular moment, right? Which was Solomon, because the ant taught Solomon a great lesson when in a story. It's not in the Quran, but it's present in the hadiths and also in the Jewish narrations, where Sulaiman is riding on his carpet, and the wind is carrying him and his army, and then he has this encounter with the ant, where the ant teaches Solomon, that he should be humble rather than to be arrogant. And so the ant of Solomon came back also in human form and is present today on the earth. You have also the donkey of Balaam ibn Bahura. Yes. The donkey of Balaam, the son of Beor. He was riding the donkey, and he was seeking to go forward to place a curse on Moses and the Israelites, and they were God's chosen people. And the donkey and Balaam, they witness an angel in the road, and the donkey refuses to take Balaam forth, and Balaam beats the donkey until he actually beats the donkey to death. And so that donkey became a martyr for the truth. And because of that, that donkey, ended up returning in the human form. And there are also many other examples and narrations that speak about, and traditions that speak about, creatures that have done heroic acts. All these creatures, they end up getting a second chance, like the dog, the companion of the seven sleepers, the dog that was with them in the cave, this great animal that was mentioned in the Quran, while so many other humans who were not mentioned in the Quran had a chance to return as a human being. And he actually, is with the Qa'im and his companions as a helper and as supporter. There was also a tyrannical police officer in the narrations that used to terrorize the believers at one point in time in history, and he had a son that he loved so much, and this wolf one day attacked and killed the son of this police officer. And because this wolf managed to bring sadness into the heart of a tyrant and treat him like he was treating all the believers, and taking away their sons and arresting them and killing them and abusing them and torturing them, for this heroic act, the wolf itself ends up entering into paradise.
Wow.
So it's a beautiful thing, and it's an amazing thing.
Absolutely.
And we have in Al-Hafs Sharif too, we had an example where Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was essentially teaching his companions that they shouldn't look down upon anything or think that they're better than any creature. Because perhaps that creature is in a human form and is better than them today. And in one instance, he's with his companions, and there was a person, a carpenter, who was working, and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that this individual, he used to be a rooster in one of his incarnations before, and now he's in a human form. And we have other narrations that speak about this fact that human beings are incapable of even considering themselves to be better than any living creature, and that if they do consider themselves to be better even than the animals, they're at great risk of being punished by God. We have a trial that Moses went through in the famous hadith. He's standing he's standing, and it was right after he had gotten and received the Torah from God, and so he considers himself to be the most wise of all creatures and the best thing that God has ever created. And so at this moment, when he was having these thoughts, thinking that he's the best, the angel Gabriel came down from the heavens, because God had said to the angel Gabriel, "Go down to Moses and teach him a lesson, for verily he has destroyed himself," just by this thought, thinking that he's the best of all beings. And so Gabriel went down to Moses. Moses knew that he had committed a mistake. God tells Gabriel to tell Moses that he needs to go forward and bring forward a creature, find a creature that he is better than, and bring him forward to meet God. And so Moses now has this task that he has to wander around the world and find any living creature that he is better than and meet God. And so Moses goes forward, he looks at the people, he looks at his companions, and he gets scared, and he says, I'm afraid that I take any of these people from the Israelites, and that in the end, they end up being, or having qualities that are better than the qualities that I have, and thereby I'll earn the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he goes forward and he contemplates taking any of the animals of the earth. But every time he looks at an animal, he sees in their qualities, or sees them working so hard, or sees them doing something, that he becomes afraid of taking them, until he finds this diseased dog, and he thinks to himself, I must be better than this diseased dog. Like it's diseased, it's got a it's sick, and it's not doing anything, and there's no use to it, and look at it, it's horrible. Like, at least I must be better than this dog. And so he ties him up and he takes him and he begins to walk with him, and then at some point fear enters into him and he releases the dog, and then he goes forward and he meets God, and he has nothing, and he says, I've not found anything that that lives or crawls or walks upon the face of the earth that I can consider myself to be greater than. And the response of God was that, if you had brought somebody with you, any living creature, I would have erased you from the record of the prophets and the messengers, right? So Moses himself, who was one of the Ulil Azmi prophets, one of the best, most determined prophets and messengers, could not consider himself to be better than any living creature or entity that exists on the face of the earth. And now we know the reason why. And the reason why is because any of these animals could end up elevating and becoming human beings, and any of these animals that are now human beings could end up elevating and they themselves becoming prophets and messengers. And who knows, beautiful. Moses didn't know if he himself one day was, had incarnated as one of these animals before, and that his performance now as a prophet or a messenger is not, would not be better than their performance if they ended up elevating to the degree or the rank or the role of a prophet or messenger in the future.
I think this is so beautiful, Abasadi. Just the idea that animals can have good deeds and that a human being should never consider himself better than any of these animals of God's infinite wisdom is just a complete different and beautiful understanding.
And it also shows that there are these opportunities,
yes,
that every living creature has an opportunity to draw closer to God and to learn and to elevate, in any of the vehicles that exist on the earth, So this earthly plane is a school for knowing God and elevating, and it's in a place of opportunity, not just a place of torture and torment,
right,
and punishment. So even the souls that are, have less of an advantage because they might start off in a body that's more limited than the bodies that we are blessed with, they still have the opportunity that they can, get higher and higher and higher until they become, in the end, like the angels above, and they enter into paradise.
Everybody has a chance.
Yeah. All right. So now, since we've spoken about the possibility of animals entering into paradise, let's talk a little bit more about the soul's journey into heaven and the nature of heaven itself, and what is it like. So heaven is a place that exists. It is a place that is promised towards the believers, for the believers. And it is a place that exists in this physical realm that we are in, but we cannot see it. In the description of paradise in the Quran, it says that the paradise, its width and breadth is that of the skies and the earth. A heaven, which its width is the width of the heavens and the earth.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in that is a great clue that paradise itself, its size is the same size as the heavens, the skies, right? And the earth, because it is the skies and the earth. It's existing in that same space. It's its same size because it is there. It's just on a different frequency.
Mm-hmm.
There is something that's preventing us from seeing it.
Right.
It's existing in that same space that we are living in,
mm-hmm.
but we don't have access to it. In the same way that on a television, in a television set, you have this square box, right? You have this screen that you're looking at, this rectangle that's on the wall that's ahead of you. And you can access on the television screen a multitude of channels.
Mm-hmm.
You can turn on channel 1, but you can also turn on channel 2 with the click of a button. You could watch Disney. You can turn on National Geographic. You can turn on CNN. You can turn on the BBC. You can turn on Al Jazeera. Whatever channel it is that you want to watch, you can switch it, and that channel can manifest itself, or rather, your eyes now have access to that frequency, and it's being displayed in front of you, and now you see it. But where is it existing? It's existing in the same space as every other channel,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So all these channels are existing in the same space. The same thing is taking place here in this physical universe. you have the physical universe, and on one channel or one frequency, you have this realm of paradise, right? Or heaven, a realm that when your soul elevates, right, it receives eventually a body that's appropriate for that realm, so that you can exist over there and not exist here. Yeah. Here in this earthly physical realm, you have these denser bodies, these dense physical bodies that we have here. In these bodies, we can't access those higher realms, you know, and we also can't access the lower realms, which is the realms of hell, but that's a different topic. But if we did well in these bodies, just like we can shift and move from the body of an animal to the body of a human being, there are these other bodies that reside in a heavenly realm that take up the same space that we're in now, right? But you have to transfer to that realm to be able to experience that world. And I think that the narrations from the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam, they're clear about that, because you have many scenes where Imam Ali alayhi salam was able to speak to the dead, and he would go to places like Wadi Salam, and Wadi Salam in Iraq. This is a particular area. The traditions of the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam had mentioned that it's one of the gardens of paradise, and that the souls of the righteous abide over there, and that they visit each other over there, and they speak with each other. And Imam Ali alayhi salam had the ability to go over there and speak to these souls. So there you go. You have something which is being described as a garden of paradise. It has in there souls of dead people, and it's existing in the same plane as where we are existing. And you have the opposite being true too, where you have this other place that's called the Wadi of Barhut, and it's in Yemen, and it's this kind of deep pit, this desert, in this desert area that is considered to be a place where the evil souls that are impure go to after they die, and it's supposed to be a spot in hellfire, and yet it's existing in the same physical plane as we are. You know, it's just about a channel being switched, and we would be able to have access to that. And Imam Ahmad Hassan salam, he said that there is this thing that is it's like a film, like a film cover. It's like a small little film strip. Imagine like a lens or something, right? That is placed over the eye. There is something, the Imam says, that is placed over the eye like a film covering, and if that was to be removed, we would be able to see paradise in front of our very eyes. Yes. But it's because this film covering is on there that we perceive and see only the things that are in this realm, in this world, when really it's like it's a fake world. It's this earthly realm that we are in right now. It's an illusion. It's a dream. It's not real. So imagine it's like people wearing something over their eyes that creates a virtual reality type of experience. That's what this physical dimension is like. And if we just had the ability to remove it, we would be able to see reality how it is, and that is a reality that includes in it a paradise or a heaven. We'd see reality as it is, and it is a heaven that's existing.
Yes, it reminds me of the quote, Father, of Imam Ahmad al-Hassan alayhi salam, where he said that remove the dust from your eyes and you shall see as I see.
The dust from your eyes is this film covering. Right. And this film covering, the Imam said, it's actually a living entity. It's a creature that's alive. Yeah. And that lives on the eyelid of the human being, but with the human being's ability to fight himself and elevate in degrees, and to get rid of, to defeat his nafs. A person who has the ability to fight against the soldiers of ignorance and to uplift these veils of darkness, and to be a person who's selfless and who's in control of their mind and their actions and their behavior, this person is also capable of killing this creature that lives over the eyelids of the human being. Nonetheless, let's go back to heaven so we don't stray too much from the topic. So in paradise, it's a realm that no bad feelings exist. There's no such thing. And all those people that enter into this realm, in order to even enter into it, you cannot have any negative characteristics. Right. Your very soul and self has to be free from things such as envy, hate, right? Jealousy. All of these bad qualities and soldiers of ignorance, you have to overcome them and defeat them first before you're allowed to enter into that realm, because it is these particular characteristics and qualities that if they were allowed to enter into paradise, it would no longer be a paradise, but rather it would turn the realm of paradise into a living hell. Yes. And that's why when Iblis was in paradise, and then it became clear that he had this envy in him, the envy that was inside of him came out and manifested itself in his refusal to prostrate to Adam. The result of it was that he had to be banished and exiled from paradise, because this type of negativity cannot exist in a higher realm such as paradise.
Yes.
And all things are permissible. They're allowed in paradise, because the realm of paradise is one that, a person is supposed to be happy in. And you cannot be happy if you have bad qualities, and you cannot be happy if there's anything that you desire that you cannot have. And so the rules in paradise are different than the rules that are here. In paradise, a person can do whatever it is that his heart desires, and the hearts that are in there would never desire evil. They would only desire stuff that is good, but it doesn't mean that they don't have desires to experience different types of pleasures. And that's why we have descriptions in the Holy Quran of paradise having in it rivers of honey and rivers of milk and rivers of wine, because this is a reward for the believers, and the believers do desire to have fun and to experience these things, and to have fruits, and to have meats, and to have tasty foods. And Imam Ahmad Hassan said that most people had desired these types of things when the Quran first came out. The only things that they would really desire would be tasty wines and foods and things of this nature, and also sex. And so that's why in the Quran, the description of paradise has these things. When we have verses that describe paradise, it's always promises of, bird meat and precious fruits and, honey, and comfortable seatings and houris, women of paradise that are available for sex and immortal youth, etc. And sex does exist in paradise, because sex is something that human beings love very much, and they like that experience and that pleasure, and that's why it's there. But if the Quran was to come down today and we would describe what is in paradise, it would be, you might have verses that would say that in paradise there are also Ferraris, and there are also iMacs and iPhones and things like this. Why? Because it is those things that people desire today. So in short, the existence in paradise is one where everything that you wish for is made manifest and you have access to it. And there's nothing that is withheld from you.
Yes.
So if you are a lover of technology and you go to paradise, your paradise might be filled with all kinds of gadgets and things and different types of phones and computers, etc., that you dreamt that you could have in this physical world, but you never had the opportunity to. So over there, you would have the opportunity to. If you desired to live in a physical palace, right, like a beautiful house in the countryside or on a hill, you would have that house, and it would be a house that would exceed your wildest dreams and expectations. It would be better than anything that you would imagine, because maybe the house here would be made of wood or concrete, etc. But over there, it would be made of marble and gold and silver, and there would be all kinds of servants there to serve you and help you and all of this. So all of the wildest dreams come true. People might have dreams that, that they go around and they see the world. Well, in paradise, all those dreams would be fulfilled, and you would be able to go and experience all kinds of adventures. Any adventure that your mind can think of, you would have access to it over there in paradise. So it's a realm where all things are given to you, and everybody's paradise is different, because their paradise is the making of their own mind. They get to manifest, right, a paradise that is pleasurable for them. And most people, most men want beautiful women. Most women want beautiful men, and these things exist in paradise. And that's exactly what the Hur'ain is. Hur'ain are these women that are the manifestation of the desires of the people of paradise, that are there, that the people of paradise are able to have sexual relations with. That's their purpose. Right. And you have also these immortal youth, these men that are there also for the females, that they can have intercourse with them as well if they would like to, because these men are the manifestation of the desires of the women that enter into paradise. And and I had an amazing discussion, and it's all in the Call of the Wise, with Imam Ahmed al-Hassan about different possibilities in paradise. So I asked him, well, what if the men in paradise want to have sexual relations with the immortal youth, those boys, the men, that are made, that are the manifestation of the desires of the females? What if, in other words, what if it is the desire of somebody who's in paradise to have a homosexual relationship? Yes. Is homosexuality allowed in paradise? Yes. And the Imam said absolutely, and that the Hur'ain are not just for the men, that the women, if they desired the Hur'ain, they could also have them, and vice versa, the men, if they desired these young men, that are the equivalent of the Hur'ain, the immortal boys as they are called, or immortal youth as they are called, the Wildan Mukhalladun, if the men desired to be with them sexually, that would also be available to them. So basically, there's nothing that is off limits. Right. All things go in paradise. If you wanted to have a gigantic party, you could have a party. Wine and alcohol, we already spoke about, and it's already there in the Quran that there's rivers of wine. Drugs, any other drug or marijuana or anything like this, as funny as it may sound, anything that you desire will be made manifest for you. So I asked him also, what if people in paradise, wanted to have sexual relations with each other? So we're not talking now about the Huris, and we're not talking about the Wildan Mukhalladun, these immortal boys that only exist in paradise, that don't have an existence in this realm, or in this world. Although there are narrations, this is just an interesting side note, there are narrations that exist in Christianity that state actually that the children of non-Christian people. So this is before Islam, right? And even after Islam, some of the popes in Catholicism and some of the priests, while attempting to answer the question, of where do non-Christian babies go, right? So the children, if they don't have any sin, if they're born innocent, right? Or for Christians, nobody's born innocent. They're all carrying the sin of Adam. But for these children that didn't commit any other sin from their own selves, where would they go? And they, in some of the manuscripts, it's written that these children actually, they go to paradise, but they don't go to paradise, like everybody else goes to paradise to enjoy, but rather they go to paradise to serve. So they're in paradise, but they're in paradise as servants, right? Because they were non-Christian or had non-Christian parents. So essentially, the Wuldan Mukhalladun or the Hura'in that exist in paradise could be containers, according to Christianity, of the souls of children or youth that died before the age of being able to determine. So they go to paradise, but now they go to paradise as servers who are serving wine and drinks and fruits and things like this, and also are serving as sexual servants for the people of paradise. But this is not a notion that exists in Islam. It's not the case in the religion of Islam. All children that are innocent, they go into paradise and they enjoy paradise as anybody else. They don't go in there as servants, and the Wildan Mukhalladun and the Hurain are purely creatures that exist only in paradise, that never had an existence here on earth. So back to the question of what if people wanted to have sex with each other, like inhabitants of paradise that incarnated on earth? What if they wanted to have sex with each other, and do people in paradise have an existence with their soulmate? And the answer is yes, that an individual does have an existence, and there is something called a soulmate, that is your wife that will abide with you in paradise, or your husband that will abide with you in paradise. And who is that soulmate? The soulmate is somebody whom you incarnate with on earth at least once, and sometimes twice or more. And while an individual is incarnating on earth, because they have many incarnations, they have many different spouses. Right. And the soulmate is the spouse out of all of those spouses that reached the closest in degree to you. Right? Yeah. So maybe in one lifetime, you incarnate and you're married to a woman named, let's say Teslim. Yes. And in another lifetime, you're married to a woman whose name is Runa. Right. And in another lifetime, you're married to a woman whose name is Aisha. In another lifetime, you're incarnated and you're married to a woman whose name is Khulda, etc. Right? And so you die. And in the hereafter, the woman out of all of these spouses or women that is going to abide with you forever is the one who her consciousness and her faith is the same as yours, or almost the same as yours, the closest to yours, right? Because you can't abide in paradise with somebody who's not at the same level as you. That wouldn't be a paradise, right? Yes. So the souls end up falling with a spouse, that is at the same degree of faith as them. That is the soulmate. Yes. Not somebody who you're attracted to physically the most, not somebody whom you come from the same class as they are in terms of riches or in terms of education, but somebody who is the closest to you or the same as you in faith. Yes. Okay? So that's an important note. And all people reincarnate their very last incarnation with their soulmate. Okay. So the very last incarnation on earth, they are incarnating with their soulmate that they will be in heaven with forever.
Which they could meet before as well, but definitely the last
definitely.
one.
They could meet before as well. So you might have, for example, 19 incarnations, right? And during those 19 incarnations, let's say you had 17 wives or 16 wives, right? So you had 16 different wives. You had one incarnation that didn't have a wife, and maybe a couple incarnations, 1 or 2 incarnations where you're married to somebody that you were already married to in another incarnation, right? So your last or final incarnation, you would be married to the one who was the closest to you in faith out of those previous 16, women that you were married to.
Understand.
You understand?
Yes.
And people enter into paradise with bodies that are attractive. And the level of their attractiveness depends on their level of faith. So the more that you have faith, the higher that you are in faith, the more beautiful of a body that you are going to be given to be in paradise, right? So now when you go into paradise, all people are able to know who was best. There's like a ranking system based on their physical beauty.
Wow.
Yeah. So the better looking people are the people that had higher faith and they had better deeds than you did.
Yes.
Okay. And the people that are less attractive than you are the people that are, were lower than you. Right?
Right.
And people in paradise, even though they have a spouse, they might desire to have intercourse with another person who's in paradise that's not their spouse. Just like that feeling exists on earth for a lot of people, that live in polygamous marriages, or people that don't, that they live in monogamous marriages, but they still feel feelings of attraction or wish that they could be with somebody else, or feel attraction, feelings of attraction towards somebody else that's not their husband or their wife. In paradise, there's no restrictions that would keep the individual from not crossing that boundary, because there's no halal and haram in paradise. In paradise, everything's halal.
Yes.
Okay. So an individual in paradise could sleep with his neighbor's wife, for example, or could have a sexual relation with another inhabitant in paradise if they both desire that or will that. Do you understand?
Yes.
And it wouldn't be a problem over there, because there is no such thing as jealousy or envy that would exist over there. And the existence itself, I know it's a weird thought, and some people might cringe or feel, very bad feelings at this notion or this idea. But it's like Ahmed Hassan said, he said, son, don't try to think of that world and that existence with your human mind. When you're over there in that world, in that realm, you'll have a different type of mentality. So, so it's, something that you might not like over here, you would definitely not be opposed to over there, because it's a different realm, and everybody that's in there is pure, and there's no such thing as envy or hatred or it's a different existence. There is, though, that structure that we spoke about, this ranking structure, this hierarchy where the most beautiful of people exist at the highest levels, and and then it goes down based on beauty, and the people that are the most beautiful, because they were the most faithful, they have slightly more rights over the rest.
Yes.
So, for example, if you're in paradise and you are at a high rank, anybody who is below you, you could have intercourse with them if you wanted to, or have a relationship with them if you wanted to, and none of them would object, because that's just how it is in paradise. If you see something that's more beautiful, your heart won't be able to resist, right? So everybody that's below a believer of a certain degree would automatically want to be with somebody who's of a higher degree, And so anybody who's at a higher degree would be able to have relations with anybody that's a lower degree. Right. But what if somebody that's at a lower degree desired somebody who's at a higher degree? They would not be able to have access or have that person of a higher degree unless that person of the higher degree desired them or wanted
so
them.
It only goes downwards, not upwards.
It goes downwards, but sometimes it can go upwards. You can desire, and it's possible that somebody desires somebody that's higher, and then that person that's higher ends up being with them.
Right. But they have to.
But the person that's higher, it's in their hands to bestow this upon them or not, because they were more faithful.
Right.
But even in that realm, if a person got turned away or didn't want, like the feelings of disappointment, it just doesn't exist in that realm.
Makes sense.
So there's no disappointment, there's no sadness, and they would be given somebody else, or they would see somebody else would come or want them, or there'd be these hurains that are specifically for paradise that would manifest themselves, and so that situation would not result in a disappointment or a sadness. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is absolutely incredible. And it makes so much sense.
It really does.
Yes.
And, some people have asked, like, okay, do souls in paradise, do they remember their earthly experiences? Do they know one another? When I go to paradise, will I recognize my beloved family members from earth? And the thing about it is that the answer is no. And the reason why is because we don't remember any of our experiences or incarnations on earth.
Yes.
We don't remember those because life on earth is filled with disappointment and with horrors and tragedies and tribulations and bad memories. And if we retained those memories in paradise, we would not be able to be happy.
Right.
And so in order to be happy, we have to forget those experiences that were on earth. And it could be something even as simple as like, needing to forget somebody who you cared about that's no longer now with you and is not qualified to enter into the realms of heaven. Yes. Somebody who you loved, who was your friend, but, is not there now, and you need to forget about them. Right? Or a spouse that you loved very much. Maybe they didn't end up being your soulmate, but you need to forget about them. So these people that enter into paradise, their memories are wiped clean, and all they know is their current reality that they're living in paradise.
Yes.
And people will recognize people that they lived with on earth, but not recognize them. How is that the case? Basically, if you had a brother or a father that you loved very much, or a friend, let's say me and you, we're good friends, we go to paradise, we meet in paradise, it would be as if we're meeting for the very first time. I would not have memories, nor would you, of our existence here on earth as Abdullah Hashim and Iyad al-Khuli. We wouldn't remember each other by our physical names or by our physical appearance or by our shared mutual experiences that we had here. But our hearts would retain the love that we had for one another here. Wow. So when we see each other in paradise, we would just feel that automatic closeness towards one another. And it would be as if we had always known one another. You ever meet somebody in this physical life and you think to yourself, wow, we click so well. It's like as if I've been friends with this guy forever. That usually is a soul that you had a previous life with.
Yes.
Right? Another incarnation before this one, where you guys were really good friends. So then you incarnate again, and you recognize that there's this sense of, familiarness that is there. So that's the case in paradise. People would know who Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, for example, was, but they wouldn't know anything about or remember the tragedy of Karbala. Okay?
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, they would know also the relations of the people towards one another from the soul family tree. So we know that human beings, they have here, and we've spoken about it before on one of the episodes, but we'll repeat it again briefly here. Just like you have in every one of those incarnations that you incarnate into, you have a mother and a father, and you have siblings, brothers and sisters, and you have sons and daughters, right? Perhaps, and you have a spouse. You also, the soul itself has in the soul world, before it came into this world, it had a parent. Right. And the parent had a spouse, and the soul had, many times has offspring, right? And the soul also might have siblings, and it might have uncles and aunts, and it definitely has grandparents. There's a family tree, which is the ultimate family. It's the real family. It's the family of the souls before they came into the bodies, incarnating as human beings, and it's the family structure that you go back to when you enter into paradise, right? So there's this idea that there are these two trees. There's a tree in the Quran, which is the righteous tree, and that's the tree of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad. And branching out of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad are the prophets and the messengers. And then you have the evil tree, and that's the tree of Pharaoh and Nimrod and Cain and Abu Bakr and Omar and all of the unrighteous disbelievers. Now, these two trees, they start off in the soul world, and then they come and they incarnate into this physical world, and the two trees intermingle. The roots intermingle, the branches intermingle. You might have a person whose origin is from the righteous tree marrying somebody who's from the unrighteous tree, right? But then in the end, when it's all said and done, and they return, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're judged, the righteous tree grows and is placed in paradise, along with all of its stems and roots and branches and leaves and fruits. And the evil tree, with all of its thorns and its rotten fruit, ends up in hellfire. Okay? Yeah. So now when that tree goes into, and all the inhabitants and the souls that come and branch out of that tree enter into paradise, they are related to one another according to the soul tree, and not according to families that incarnated with on earth. Do you understand?
Yes.
And we presented in the book, The Goal of the Wise, a graphic that showed some of the family relations in the soul world that exist. We have the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being the son of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam in the soul world. Hence, the Prophet Muhammad, when he said the words, Fatima is the mother of her father, Fatima Abiha. So that's the meaning of it, is that Muhammad in the physical world was the father of Fatima, but in reality, in the soul world, Fatima Zahra alayhi salam is the mother of her father. Yes. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, in the physical world, he was the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. But in the soul world, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is the son of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Right? Yes. And that's why the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Hussein is from me. Yes. Right? Right. And he says also, and I am from Hussein, because he also incarnated and as the son of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, when he came back in the form of Muhammad al-Mahdi and also Muhammad al-Jawad and Muhammad al-Baqir, etc. So, you have also in the soul world, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, having two sons and a daughter. His daughter is Lady Zainab alayhi salam, and one of his sons is Yusuf, and one of his sons is Musa. Yes. All right. And you have also Yusuf having several sons and a daughter, and his daughter is Mary Magdalene in the soul world. You have Moses, who one of his sons in the soul world is the prophet Elias, and the prophet Elias also has a son in the soul world, and that is prophet Imran. right? Who is the grandfather of Jesus, alayhi salam. And so it is as such. You have this big, large soul family tree that branches first from the Ahlul Bayt, alayhi salam, the people of the cloak in particular. From them, they give birth to the prophets and the messengers, the souls of the prophets and the messengers. The prophets and the messengers, they give birth to other prophets and messengers. And then eventually it extends down to all of the saints and the righteous believers and every other soul that will abide in paradise.
Yes.
And so that soul structure or family, it is preserved in paradise, and people in paradise know that that is Al-Hussein and that's Joseph or Abdullah, who's the son of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, in the soul world, but they don't retain any memories of any of their incarnations on the earth. They're aware that there was an earthly experience and that there were incarnations, but they don't have memories of any of that.
Beautiful. That's how paradise, how I would want paradise to be. Wonderful.
Yeah. So, we'll stop there then, Iyad, and inshallah we'll continue in a future episode if people like it. It depends on them if they're interested in this topic or not. And how they respond also to the lengths of the episodes that we have. We can delve into perhaps more in the different aspects of paradise and answer other questions that are posed, as well as get into details concerning the opposite of paradise, and that is the evil place, the bad place that people go to after a lot of incarnations of bad and evil, and that's hellfire.
Yes. Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you, Father. Thank you. This was wonderful.
God bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh.